Well, in this little video, we're going to show you how to create an additional split point in the right-hand part of the keyboard. Now, I say in the right-hand part, I'm assuming that many of you will be using the standard split point and playing this as an arranger keyboard. But if you're just using sounds across the whole keyboard, the same rules will apply. But we're using this with our global split on because I'm using a left-hand voice. And to save time, I've already set the sounds up. In upper 1, I've got String Ensemble DNC. In upper 2, I've got Viola 4. In upper 3, I've got Concert Flute DN1. And on the lower, we've got Lyrical Choir. Now, my aim is to separate the flute from the other 2 string voices, because if I play notes at the moment, I'm hearing all 3 upper voices. I now want to create what I'm going to call a zone. So yes, we're creating an additional split, but what that results in, we're creating a zone on the keyboard for the 2 string sounds to play. And I want my flute to play in a short zone up at the top end of the keyboard. Why do I want to do this? Because I've got a little phrase that keeps popping up in this song that requires a flute. And I don't want to have to keep changing from sound to sound or keyboard set to keyboard set, because you wouldn't have time in this sort of arrangement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be playing my strings here, and then when I need the flute, I just move up to the top octave. So how do we do it? We need to be in the ensemble part of the menu, and the quickest way to get there is press Shift and Ensemble. That uses the shortcut to take us to the ensemble page. And the tab that we need on the right hand side is the second one up, which says Range and Velocity. Now, we've covered velocity in a separate video. That's the bottom 2 rows. So we are looking at the top 2 rows. And what that tells us is that upper 1, which is this column, excuse me, the bottom note is C minus 1 and the top note is G9. And that's exactly the same for the other 2 voices. And that is what you're likely to see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change where the flute plays, because at the minute that setting means that those sounds will play across the whole keyboard. Obviously, because we've got a split in place, it means it will play from the right of the split all the way up the keyboard. But I need to change that because I need to limit the notes that each of these sounds plays in. So I'm going to start and get my flute right first. And the easiest way to do that is to switch the other 2 sounds off so that all we're listening to is our flute. And as you can see, that will play across the whole keyboard. I only want it to start playing here. So I need to set that as my bottom note. So if I set that now by turning the data wheel, and I'm going to set that, there we go, to B5. Hopefully that means that below that note, we have no flute. Above the note, we have our flute sound. Now, if you didn't know that that was B5, then the easiest thing to do would be to keep playing that note, turn the data wheel slowly until that note disappears. You know you've gone past that point now. So that's C6, knock it back 1, B5. So even if you don't know what that note is, there is always a way to find out. So that's set our flute up. But if I switch the other 2 sounds on, they're still playing in that section as well. We don't want that on this particular occasion. There may be a time when you do want that, but no, I want the flute to just be a clean, pure sound. So what I need to do is alter the top note on the other 2, and it needs to be the note before our flute starts. There's no point in setting it to B5 because that means actually on that note, all 3 sounds will be playing. I need to set the other two sounds to stop at B flat or A sharp 5. So let's go to top key there, and we wind that back until we get into the 5s. And there we go, A sharp 5. Let's do exactly the same with this one. There we go, just gone past it. A sharp 5. So what we've done is told the instrument that, yeah, the string and the viola, they can play from anywhere above the split point as far as that note. And then the flute kicks in at that note up to the top. Let's just put it to the test. That's great. So we've created our two zones. And that now means we can play our piece, and you'll see now how I use this little zone at the top for my little breakaway. We'll call it a motif because it's a little phrase that keeps repeating. And yeah, the whole thing should sound like this. There we go. I don't think I need to go any further, but it's a great way of creating a little section of the keyboard that you can use just for a breakaway phrase. It could be a little bell sound. There's all manner of uses for that, but have a practice. It's done through the ensemble section. So that's creating an additional split on the right hand.